Welcome to the Seahawkers podcast with your hosts, Adam Emmert.
This isn't a Hallmark movie. Sally Fields doesn't star in this film. This is Left Tackle.
And Brandon Schultz.
I believe, based on everything that I've seen from Bleacher Report in the past, that this is Jason Cole's fault.
Go Hawks!
This is episode 152 of the Seahawkers podcast. I'm Brandon Schultz of the Military Seahawkers. Joining me, my good buddy and Montana Seahawker, Adam Emmert.
I am present. Yes, I am present for the podcast this week, Brandon. One of the things that is one of my more favorite things about the way that we do the podcast is there's definitely some weeks where I'm a little more fired up about some things, and excited about things that are going down or an idea or something like that. And that you're not as excited about. And then there's other weeks that you're more fired up and focused in on something and are excited about doing that maybe I'm not quite as excited about. And that might be one of these weeks.
Might be one of these weeks.
I think you're going to carry us a little bit on this one because I'm going to tell you straight up, Brandon, I haven't felt less excited, engaged with an off season in 4 or 5 years, man. I am bored as catfish when it comes to all of this.
I tend to think that you're not alone on this. I think there's a lot of Seahawks fans after the past couple of weeks that are, one, really waiting for the NFL draft. Two, even just happy if the schedule release comes out here pretty soon. Because
no kidding.
Those two bits of information, that at least gives you something tangible, rather than rumors and speculation. And, because once the draft is here, the players that the Seahawks are going to have will have guys to talk about. And we can get into, starting to see what the direction of the team may be going into the 2017 season.
Exactly. We're kind of in that no man's land. And I mean, you can tell by the way that the sports reporting is going right now that we're in that no man's land where there's really not a lot of news. Well, there really isn't any news unless you make up the news. And so we'll talk about that a little bit. But you came up with a great idea that we started, I guess it was a little longer than a week ago since we haven't done a show here for a little bit. But the idea of looking at the guys that have come in and talked with the Seahawks have actually had visits because traditionally those are guys that seem to get picked up in the draft. And I think you wanted to focus on defensive backs.
We're looking at defensive backs this week, and WalterFootball.com tracks all of the visits that for all 32 NFL teams. And they don't get everybody, but you can kind of get a sense based on who they're bringing in, based on the particular positions that they're tending to focus on. And we're going to get into that. Also, you kind of mentioned this, that we're going to talk about the media's continued effort to manufacture drama around Richard Sherman. And the Seahawks are part of this. We'll get into that. Mm-hmm. Marshawn Lynch coming out of retirement, it sounded like. There was
You better put a question mark at the end of that. Coming out of retirement?
There were reports this last week that made it sound it was certain until Marshawn Lynch essentially said, hey, when stuff gets real, I'm going to let you know.
Is that what he said?
Essentially.
Okay. I was just curious.
I thought
he said something a little different.
I don't think he said stuff.
Okay. I thought there was some catfish worthy words in there. Okay.
Yeah, there was.
Yeah. And that's how you knew it was the real Marshawn Lynch.
Yeah, the verified check mark. You don't even need to see that check mark for Marshawn Lynch. You knew based on how that was written that it was Marshawn.
Yeah. Yeah, that check mark thing seems stupid anyways.
But let's get into it. Let's talk about the real actual news that happened in the past 2 weeks. Dion Jordan, the Miami Dolphins number 3 overall pick in the 2013 draft. We got the number 2 pick in the 2013 draft. Now we've got the number 3 pick. And Dion Jordan's going to come to Seattle to compete. What was your reaction when you saw this?
Woo! So my reaction is, look, that's a great guy to bring in on a total flyer. I'm sure they're not paying him hardly anything. Guy who was very athletically gifted coming out of Oregon. He could fit in as a situational pass rusher, maybe. Obviously has had the substance abuse issues that had kept him off the field, then a knee injury that kept him off the field. I did read an article from one of the Miami beat reporters and basically saying that the knucklehead factor is extremely high And that even at this low risk, it's a dumb move for the Seahawks, which I'm sure coming from a Miami reporter at this point, like, oh, that's the guy that didn't work out. Screw that guy. See ya. Don't let the door hit you. So I'm sure it was written from a place of relative bitterness. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. He's worth kicking the tires on. You can bring him in again for next to nothing and see if there's anything left in the tank. I'm just really curious if we can somehow accumulate all of the top 5 picks from the 2013 draft this offseason. I didn't know if that was possible.
I don't think it's possible. I think the Chiefs already re-signed their dude last year. And and then Lane Johnson, was he the 4th overall?
I don't know. I'm looking it up right now.
Okay.
Well, let's see here, Brandon. Let's see the 2 out of the 5 overall picks.
I think the 2 offensive linemen at number 1 and number 4 are already locked into deals with the Chiefs and Eagles, I think.
Right.
So
yeah. Number 1 was Eric Fisher. Number 2, Luke Jokel. 3, Dion Jordan. 4, Lane Johnson. And Ezekiel Ansah is number 5.
Oh, yeah, Ziggy Ansah.
Yep.
Yeah, he'd be all right to have.
He would be. I don't think the Lions are getting rid of him. So
no.
I guess that quest to collect them all might have to be put on hold.
But maybe eventually this is like the new, since we had the run on Bills running backs, former Bills running backs. Now maybe we've moved on to former top 5 picks from the 2013 draft. And there's still time to get those other 3 guys. They're, right before their second contract, maybe. Or after their second contract.
Yeah, maybe that's how you get that done. I don't know. But, my first question when it came to Dion Jordan was, how do you think he'd work at tackle? Because, maybe that's where they're looking at him at it. You don't know.
It's true that you don't know. But
yeah. No, I think they are bringing him in as a defensive.
You know what, though? That joke about trying guys on the offensive line, the more you tell it, the funnier it gets, because I think we're on like the among all Seahawks fans, if you were to add it all up, I think there's been a million jokes about moving guys to and that's literally a million.
Literally. Yes.
And it gets funnier every single time. So don't tell me that it's not funny anymore.
I know it gets funnier every time because it's almost ironic that you have to keep making it.
All right, well, let's get into our main topic this week and looking at the defensive backs from this upcoming 2017 draft, because as I look at WalterFootball.com, the Seahawks have visited, 6 cornerbacks I have by my count, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 safeties. So we're up to 12 defensive backs that they visited with, 6 corners, 6 safeties. Some of those safeties played corner in college. And we're going to run down this list and talk about guys that we like, guys who might seem like they're Seahawks quality players, maybe guys that aren't, and kind of look at that demonstration of grit like we talked about last week. Do they have anything in there that demonstrates that? Are they hyper athletic guys, and have they demonstrated some sort of leadership qualities in their time in college? And just maybe some of their stats. So let's start with the cornerbacks, Adam. And I want to start with Cordrea Tankersley, a cornerback out of Clemson. And the Seahawks visited him at the Combine. 6'1", 199 pounds, 32.25-inch arms. And Tony Pauline at draftanalyst.com has him graded out at about a 3rd round corner, could go in the 2nd round, and actually ranked in the top 10 of all corners. And the interesting thing about Tankersley is if he would have come out after his junior year, he decided to stay for his senior year. There were a lot of people thinking that he would go in the 1st round. And one of the things that jumped out at me watching this guy in his tape, this dude's physical, and maybe a little too physical, but yeah, he's a physical guy at corner. Reminded me a lot of, just how Brandon Browner would just kind of, maybe be a little bit too physical times. Guy can tackle.
Just take it a little far?
a little bit based on what I saw. But I like how he can tackle. I'd like to see corners who really get in there in the run game. And Tankersley was that kind of guy.
Well, the guy played in the SEC and obviously, won a national championship and all that. So it's pretty cool. The idea that he's played at, high level of competition, that speaks to me a little bit. The idea that if he was available somewhere around the 3rd round, considering the amount of draft picks that we have in the 3rd round, that makes a lot of sense to me too. And again, the idea that he was a top prospect the year before. Not that he's not a top prospect now, but you could get him for a little better value that way. The size is in that sea hockey range a little bit. I think that's a guy that you could legitimately think about then. And he does fit that mentality as well with what the Seahawks are looking for. So I guess we'll see.
In terms of guys who can play, though, I look at him and I see a guy. I can envision him as a guy who would play for the Seahawks. Let's move on to Xavier Coleman, a corner out of Portland State. The Seahawks met him in a local visit. Portland State, of course, they are a team out of the Big Sky Conference, which is at the FCS level. Same school as Deshaun Shedd, as it turns out. And initially, he's projected as a potential undrafted free agent, and apparently put on an impressive enough pro day performance that he could go in the 6th or 7th round. Had a huge junior season, 13 pass breakups, 5 interceptions, had 52 tackles. And just having that big junior season may have been part contribution as why his senior season numbers were lower. Maybe there were some Portland State fans that could give some insight there. Maybe he didn't have as many opportunities. But when I look at guys that play at that FCS level, the level below FBS, I try and look for a guy that's like a man among boys. Right. There are players out there like that. What I saw from Coleman, it wasn't necessarily like that, but the thing I liked about him a lot is if you're looking for a dude with grit, this seems like one of the guys. He missed 2.5 years of high school football due to a heart condition. He won state basketball titles as a starting point guard and finished first team All-State in track before making his way back on the football field after open heart surgery cleared his way to come back.
Yeah, that's a cool story and all. He's too small. I'd be stunned even as a undrafted guy, I'd be stunned if the Seahawks look at him. I mean, he's under 6 foot tall.
Yeah.
Like there's no, we don't go after corners that are under 6 foot tall. Like we just don't do it. So, and look, that was the other thing. I tried to find some film of some kind, or just anything, YouTube, anything. Nope. I saw one interception that he made, and it was an easy one. So, okay.
And plus the scouts say that he has sticky hips. And I mean, you can't have a corner with sticky hips.
Sticky hips.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a new one. I've heard about, hip fluidity and hip swivel. I've never heard of sticky hips. That could be a good band name too, by the way. Sticky hips.
Sticky hips definitely aren't fluid.
Right. No, it's just a new made up draft phrase.
Yeah.
To describe something like the guy moves well, or in this case does not.
Well, moving on, let's talk a little Shaquille Griffin. This is another guy that has a good story, a cornerback out of University of Central Florida. He made an official visit to the Seahawks. And when we talk about official visits, each team gets 30 official visits where they bring in players to, show them around the VMAC, kind of get to know them. Griffin's 6 foot, 194 pounds, has 32 and 3/8 inch arms. We talked to Rob Staten about that 32 inches is kind of the cutoff for arm length for corners for what the Seahawks look for. And they haven't drafted anybody below that number. So that's why I'm throwing out the arm length. Griffin's projected as around a 3rd or 4th round draft pick. I think if he goes that high, though, it'll be solely based on how well he performed at his combine, because he was thought to be a lower round guy. But once he showed off what the speed he had at the combine, that's kind of what propelled him up the draft board a little bit. A couple weeks back, NFL.com had an article on Griffin that called him the best defensive back prospect you haven't heard of. And watching his combine performance, this was key to me. He ran in cleats with leopard print on them. And if anyone tells you they're a cheetah or jaguar print, they're wrong. I did the research. They're definitely leopard print.
The little bit of flair, that's nice. I mean, it's kind of like when everybody lost their mind when Johnny Manziel did his workout with a helmet on.
Right.
I'm not sure those things really. You don't
think that factors in? You don't think the leopard print on the shoes?
I may be misunderestimating it. I might be. I don't know. It's hard to say. The idea that this guy's a little bit under the radar and somebody that made an official visit, rather than being met with at a workout or somewhere like that. That seems like a guy that you should have on your radar. It wasn't on the list you gave me, so I didn't know anything about this dude.
Oh, well, he was a combine superstar. It was the fourth fastest 40-yard dash, 4.38. Best vertical jump, or third best vertical, 38.5, and the second best broad jump, 11 feet in the cornerback position group. The one other thing that I really liked about him, Connor Orr of NFL.com said that when he was 13 years old, he promised his twin brother Shaquem, who had his left hand completely removed at the age of 4 because of some kind of syndrome, that he would not play football for a college that didn't offer both of them scholarships. And 3 years after that, Shaquille told Miami, which was his dream school, that he wasn't going to go there exactly for that reason. So his brother, minus a hand, plays linebacker for University of Central Florida, and he plays alongside him on that team.
Well, that is there's a little solidarity there. I wonder if he would hold out if he didn't sign his brother as well if you drafted him. I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know how deep that promise went, or that bond of brothers. It seems like it's pretty deep, but
yeah, I think it was just for college. But the one thing that I worry about with Griffin, the game that I watched, his speed did not match what it showed at the combine. For him to be the fourth fastest guy, I mean, he was playing. He did not play up on the line of scrimmage like you see a lot of Seahawks corners do. He played off the line quite a bit, but he had some nice hits, some nice pass breakups. So I could, toward the middle of the draft, I could see them taking a flyer on him based on his athleticism. One of the things we learned, Rob Staten did an article for SeahawksDraftBlog.com, how the Seahawks, in the first 3 or 4 rounds, we talk about spark scores and the guys being super athletic. Well, in the first 3 or 4 rounds, they tend to not take those super athletic guys, and instead, the 5th and 6th and 7th rounds, they tend to look for those super athletic guys, thinking that that can help them.
Yeah, the guys that are less polished but are more athletic.
Right, they have a higher chance to succeed based on those athletic qualities.
Right. Yeah, you've got the raw ingredients to bake the cake. So what you're hoping is that you can make it all work out in the end. Maybe they just hadn't put it together for lack of coaching or just lack of experience or whatever along the way.
Next guy I have on the list, Brandon Wilson, cornerback out of Houston. And the Seahawks had a private workout with him, which it's a little bit different than the actual official visit. It just means that a member of the Seahawks coaching staff or organization worked out with the player in private. So it could have been like at a regional type or like a pro day where they just kind of meet with him separately. And the one thing about Brandon, he has a strong first name, even if he spells it wrong. 5'11".
This is the corner from Houston, right?
Yeah.
Are there two? There must be two Wilsons. I read about a different Wilson.
Really?
Howard Wilson, cornerback from Houston.
Yeah, they do. I saw that too.
Oh, well, I screwed it up then. I researched the wrong Wilson.
Well, I'll tell you a little bit about this guy. I don't know if it's super important that because this is another guy who 5'11", 200 pounds, had an impressive pro day. Again, thought to be like a borderline 7th round pick, and he might get drafted based on his numbers. He had a 4.36 in the 40.
That's pretty fast.
Yeah, it's pretty fast. Would have been the third best among corners if he were even invited to the combine. And had a vertical of 41 inches, a bench press, 24 reps at 225 for a corner, which is pretty solid.
That is pretty solid.
Yeah, would have been the most for his position group. So this is for a late round guy based on those numbers. This guy, I'm sure, with his spark rating is probably pretty high. Also, a guy who played running back in college. So the guys of George Farmer was a guy that played corner and running back. So a guy that could challenge that George Farmer role in training camp.
Interesting. Well, I didn't know if I made this joke before. What do you think he can play offensive line?
I don't know if I heard that one yet.
Oh, okay. All right. It was just a thought.
There's like 6 more guys you could totally make that joke with, but we'll keep moving.
You act like I don't intend to do that.
I guarantee you'll get funnier every time.
Yeah.
The reason why I remember this guy, he returned a missed field goal for a touchdown against Oklahoma. And he was a guy that scored 8 touchdowns in 6 different ways. And one of those ways was a missed field goal.
Yeah, that is something you like. You like guys who score touchdowns in all sorts of weird ways.
That's neat to me. He had 500 return yards in his last 2 seasons. So a guy that can, do just about everything.
Okay.
It seems like one of those guys that could make a difference on special teams.
I see.
Jordan Lewis. Now, this is a guy that could actually
not on my list. What list did you send me?
Well, I sent. There were two other guys that they brought in just the last 2 days.
Oh, okay.
And one of them was Jordan Lewis, and another one was Ahkello Witherspoon. And the bummer thing about this, Adam, that you couldn't look at these guys. These are guys that could actually go in the first 3 rounds. And Jordan Lewis, 5'10". This is a short guy, 5'10", 188 pounds, under the 32-inch arms, so 31 and 5/8. So, but he's a guy that could play slot corner. And people think that he could maybe go around the 5th round based off of some character concerns that we can get into. But one of the things I liked from his NFL.com scouting profile, quote, sources tell us if he were bigger, he would go in the 1st round. He's cocky and tough and doesn't take any catfish from anyone.
Yeah, there's certain positions that the Seahawks will definitely overlook physical limitations to see, bring their other talents to the forefront and that sort of thing. Corner is not that position. It quite literally is the one they are the most rigid about.
I don't know why they would bring him in for an official visit, though, if they weren't at least a little interested.
It's called smoke, man. It's called smoke.
A 5th round corner is where you're going to choose to put up your smoke. I thought it was
it's just more names that people have to scroll through and try to figure out like who you're really interested or not.
Well, it could be to get a little bit of his character concerns kind of squared away too. He was set to go on trial on a misdemeanor domestic violence charge from March.
Nope. So. All right. So he's too small and he's got a trial pending about domestic violence. No.
Yeah. Misdemeanor.
Great. That makes it better.
I'm just saying there's different levels. And if you want to take that into account, you can.
I think I did take it into account.
I think you did too.
And,
I think you said what most people are thinking as soon as you read that. Okay. Next guy.
Yep. And no.
The final one of the corners, though, Ahkello Witherspoon, a cornerback out of Colorado, another guy who made an official visit. And you talk about Seahawks size. This guy matches that. 6'3", 198 pounds, 33-inch arms, projected as a 3rd round corner. His grandfather, Jimmy, was a blues artist who had a #1 hit on the R&B charts in 1949 called Ain't Nobody's Business.
Wow. You went deep on this one, Brandon.
Actually, that's about as far as I got with Witherspoon. He was the last one on my list, so I did spend a lot of time.
Man, that's unbelievable. I don't know what you may have found on everybody in there. I mean, gosh, you even found out what wasn't your business.
Ain't nobody's.
Ain't nobody's business. Solid name though, Witherspoon. There's been a lot of good Witherspoons like that have played in the NFL. So
and not a whole lot of Ahkellos, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, that's my expert analysis of the guy I didn't know was on the list.
Yeah, well, like I said, these were late additions to the list.
No, it's okay.
And since we're covering these guys anyway.
Yeah, I'm just making fun of me more than anything. Okay. So it's not your fault.
I wish I would have had to spend more time with them too, because I think this is another one of the guys that can play, and just the kind of depth that, a 6'3", 33-inch arm corner that would be available toward the 3rd round, maybe 2nd round, because with the Seahawks going toward the end of the 2nd round. But yeah, the fact that a guy with that kind of size and from the sounds of things is a guy who can play. To be available then could be interesting.
That sounds interesting, man. Cool.
All right, let's get into the safeties. And this one might be my favorite guy out of this entire list. And we heard Rob Staten talk about him before. And that's Obi Melifonwu, a safety out of Connecticut. And not only did the Seahawks talk to him at the Combine, but they also brought him in for an official visit. And he's a 5th-year senior out of Connecticut. A guy who was born in London, so I know we have some UK Seahawkers keeping an eye out for a couple of those guys in the draft. He's projected as a 2nd round pick, but he's kind of been working his way as being talked about in the 1st round. If the Seahawks like him, I think they're going to have to take him in the 1st round or trade back into early 2nd round. And I would not be sad, Adam, if this guy was a Seahawk. Camp Chancellor might be sad. But he has that unique size, 6'4", 244 pounds, and the kind of athleticism that I think would probably boost him into the 1st round, because a guy that size, 6'4", who runs a 4.4 40, 44-inch vertical, 141-inch broad jump, That's almost 12 feet. And he looks like he can play.
When you mentioned his size, that was one thing when I had looked him up, was I was like, man, that guy's a big dude. Like, he could kind of be a thumper, like he could be that kind of Cam Chancellor sort of guy. And then just watching the first highlight reel that pops up on YouTube, a lot of it was his ball skills. Like, he really was in coverage and played coverage pretty darn well. Really, that's what was impressive to me. Not a lot of big hits, but a lot of very technically sound tackling. I would put it that way. So he's not going to be a Cam Chancellor replacement in the sense that, he's going to bring the wood a lot like Cam does. I mean, maybe he could be trained up in that manner, but definitely the larger of the two safeties that really kind of stood out to me. I did like what I saw out of him, and his name ends with woo. So that's pretty cool. Fun. Yeah.
With them drafting toward the end of the first round, that depending on who's still on the board, who might be considered ahead of him, that could be one of those situations where the Seahawks aren't afraid to trade back a little bit, get a couple extra picks, and get this guy late in the first or early in the second. Well, let's move on to Budda Baker, safety out of the University of Washington. The Seahawks met with him at the Combine. He's 5'10", 195 pounds. 30 3/4 inch arms, but we're talking about safeties. So, I mean, a guy like Earl Thomas doesn't have long arms either. And he really stood out in the 40 in terms of his athleticism, as well as the short shuttle, the 3-cone. And I like this dude's attitude, considering he's expected to go in the first round. I think there's other guys that I like better, but I also really like that he went to high school at Bellevue and college at University of Washington, I like those guys that just stay local guys.
Yeah, he's got that Jermaine Kearse factor to him a little bit there. This would be the guy I'd be the most excited about.
Oh, really?
He doesn't have the quintessential size, but man, he's a thumper, man. He's a hell of a tackler. Not as great in coverage, but again, a fast dude. And they talk about him. I mean, everybody speaks about him in the idea that he makes plays on the ball, right? And that's what the Seahawks are all about. They're all about the ball. I mean, Pete Carroll talks about that all the time. He really fits their mentality as far as toughness, as far as the way that he plays the game, and the way that he's always seeking the ball out. I like this guy a lot, and knowing that the safety position is a position where guys peak early, and it's a lot like running backs. I mean, they're done early. I'd love to see us get better at safety and have a guy that's up and coming and waiting in the wings. And man, I think he's an amazing fit.
Well, his comp in his NFL.com draft profile really stood out to me, and that's Bob Sanders. And Bob Sanders was 5'8", and a dude who was just a missile.
He was 5'8".
He was 5'8".
I didn't realize that,
but he could lay the wood for a dude who's 5'8".
Yeah, for a year or two there, you could make a case of Bob Sanders for MVP. Oh, yeah. Like NFL MVP.
And he was all pro those couple years.
Where he was healthy. And you could see the difference that he made on the field. That's an interesting comparison.
Yeah, I've also seen comparisons to Tyrann Mathieu, and I think that's because
I can see that.
Watching his ability to blitz off the edge is what reminds me of Tyrann Mathieu.
Yeah, he's very versatile. I don't know what his projection is regarding playing some corner maybe too, or being that, big nickel, third safety out on the field or things like that. But I just like his mentality, man. And, being a UW guy and all that, that'd be a cool fit. That'd be a cool fit.
And he is also projected as a first round pick. So
I'm sure he is. I can see why. I can definitely see why.
I'm sticking with Obi though.
Oh, I like him too. Those two guys were the two out of all the guys that you had emailed me about that those seem the most Seahawky to me.
All right. Next guy on the list, Shalom Luani, a safety out of Washington State. The Seahawks met with him at the Combine, and he is originally from American Samoa and expected to go undrafted or maybe in the late rounds, but he's a 5'11" guy, 202 pounds. I was really confused about Luani initially because I saw that he had played for some other football teams I've never heard of. And then I realized by football that they meant soccer. And Luani actually helped lead American Samoa's team to its first ever win in a FIFA sanctioned match. So this guy has big game experience, although it's in soccer and not football.
Wrong football. Wrong football.
One of the things that stood out in terms of his workouts, the 60-yard shuttle, which must be one of the more uncommon drills because I've never heard anybody bring up how well a guy performed in the 60-yard shuttle.
Well, so basically, if you are Samoan, your background is like you're kind of a beast.
Yeah.
They're pretty badass. So the 40-yard shuttle, that's not going to test them to their fullest. You need to make it a 60-yard shuttle.
Well, only 7 guys ran it at the combine, and Luani was the fastest. His short shuttle and 3-cone also were among the top safeties. And there was a video on YouTube that refers to him as Troy Polamalu 2.0. So
Ooh.
if you want to see a video that has some dudes just getting blown up, you go look for some of Luani's highlights.
I couldn't find it.
You couldn't?
No.
Oh, come on, man. He's a Coug. There's got to be Coug highlight video makers out there.
Are there? I'm sure there are. But no, I couldn't find one.
Yeah, so based on his measurables and some of the things that I saw, I have no idea why he's projected so late. And the only thing that that maybe it would be because he allegedly punched a guy in the face outside a pizza place. But I mean, who hasn't punched a guy in the face outside of a pizza place?
Actually, I've done that. I can't even be judgy on this one. I've actually done that.
That's what I'm saying. Who hasn't done this?
I didn't throw the first punch. Is that better?
Maybe.
Okay. Or even the third.
I didn't read whether or not he threw the first punch.
There just came a point where it was time to all right, this can't go on.
Exactly. So Luani, I think, makes a perfect fit for the Seahawks.
Mm-hmm.
David Jones, a free safety out of Richmond. And
I just don't like Richmond. I don't like the Richmond Spiders.
Yeah, I know, because they beat Montana in, what was it, 2008 in the FCS championship?
Yeah. And they're just, I don't like them. So I don't want them just from that. I don't. You might as well be from Eastern Washington.
It was hard to find tape on this guy, too.
No way. Yeah. I know, because I couldn't again.
There was a highlight video that showed the same interception from about 8 different angles. And
was it a good one?
It was okay. But the thing that I really liked about it is that David Jones was actually responding to the comments in his highlight videos on YouTube.
Really?
Yeah.
I like his the fact that he's taking personal ownership over it.
He's taking ownership. And the other thing that I really liked about him, I think this guy has some stones because he's out there on the field wearing the number 13.
You think wearing the number 13 is somehow a mark of bravery?
Maybe. I've
never thought that for a second.
Or you're sending a message to your opponents that if you throw on me, you're going to have a bad day.
I don't know that there's any message in that. I think it's just
it's just a number?
Yeah, it's 1 and then a 3, and then you just put it together and it makes 13.
I suppose you think 12 is just a number.
Well, I mean, technically, but the whole idea is that there's a whole nother, persona behind that. That's ours.
You don't think there's a persona around the number 13, though?
There's only one time that there is an aura around the number 13, and that's when it's a Friday. So if he wore the number 13 and played on Friday, and it was Friday the 13th every time he played, now you've got something.
Okay.
Now you've got something. But this whole 13 on a Saturday.
Not the same. Not the same to you.
No.
Let's move on to Casey DeAndre, and I think now we're getting into a couple other guys that you haven't heard of. But
not on my list. All right, carry the show, Brandon. Who's this guy?
He's a free safety out of New Hampshire. The Seahawks brought him in as a private workout. He's listed as free safety, but the video of him that I watched against Delaware, he was mostly playing corner, and I don't think this is a guy the team is going to be looking to draft, undrafted, special teams, backup type player, because like I said, if at these smaller schools, you're looking for a man amongst boys. And this guy was not that.
I dare you to say that to his face.
I would not say it to his face. I know that much. Because I know he's better than me.
Yeah. He's a man among us. I know that much.
Right.
Yeah.
Final one here on the list, Adrian Colbert, strong safety out of Miami. He also made an official visit. Another potential late round pick, undrafted free agent type guy. I didn't see a lot of his tape either. But Mike Mayock kind of threw out his name, saying that he kind of jumped out at him a little bit while he was scouting some of the other Miami corners. But it looks like he would be a guy that would move back to safety. Again, late round pick, maybe one of those names that you hear as coming into the team as an undrafted guy.
Cool. That will officially be a dude I care about if somehow he ends up on the team. But until then, zero cares.
And then maybe we'll try and find some more tape on him.
Yeah, I don't have a care to spare for this guy.
Well, speaking of guys that are on the team, we got an email from John Davison. He's on our podcast team, but he's emailing about a guy who is on the Seahawks now. Says, Hi, fellas. So we have gambled and signed Cyril Grayson as a wide receiver. They reckon he is very fast, and if it comes off, we will be lauding John Schneider to the skies. But haven't we made a blunder here when that kid Emmert from Missoula U is still available? I hear he melts the snow when he switches the afterburners on. Do better, Seattle. Go Hawks. John Davison.
That's right, man. Yeah, John. That's the rumor on the street. I mean, there is a video that may confirm or deny that video out there, but again, no cares to spare because he won't be on the team.
I like his story, though. I mean, a guy who hasn't played football since high school. And
a guy who hasn't played since high school. Can he play offensive line?
Set that up perfectly.
That's our favorite profile for a player. Is a guy who hasn't played since before high school.
I'm like the coach of a t-ball team for you. I put that right on the tee for you. And Adam, you squared it up and you hit it out of the yard.
Yeah. Again, hilarious.
And Cyril Grayson. So super fast guy, a guy who can catch because he did play receiver in college, but did not. He decided to participate in the LSU Tigers Pro Day, Louisiana, and ended up showing enough that apparently the Seahawks were intrigued and decided to give him a contract. So, low risk, high reward, or, maybe he's okay.
Yeah, I don't know. Let's come in and see if he's got anything. But there hasn't been a strong track record of track guys coming in and being wonderful wide receivers.
And that's usually because they can't catch. But at least he has wide receiver experience.
Sure. You could have a lot of wide receiver experience dropping the ball.
Yeah. Maybe he's one of those guys where maybe this is our future gunner.
Yeah, that could be. He could be the next Ricardo Lockett. There you go. Yeah. Or right tackle. So basically, I mean, again, one of those signings, but at least it's real news. That's a guy that we actually,
he's on the team now.
He's legitimately on the team.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that.
Well, transitioning to one guy who is no longer, technically still a Seahawk, Marshawn Lynch. Let's get into the biggest drama from the past week, Adam.
Oh, boy. All right. This is my favorite part of the offseason. This is great.
All the speculation.
Can't wait. I can't wait.
But it was actually tweeted out that Marshawn Lynch had signed a contract with the Raiders this last week.
And then it was agreed to terms, and then it was not, it just that thing got backtracked about 4 times.
Yeah.
So Marshawn Lynch put the kibosh on it.
He did. And he did it just like he retired, with the tweet. He says, if you know me, you know my business is my business. And if you don't know me, that's a fun fact for you. When catfish get real, I'll let you know.
I kind of figured that's how that would go. I wasn't looking to Ian Rappaport to let me know when catfish got real. I was going to wait for Marshawn Lynch to let me know that. I'm still going to wait for Marshawn Lynch to let me know that. I have upgraded the possibility of Marshawn Lynch donning an Oakland Raiders jersey in my mind from about 10% to 40%. But I still feel like it is less likely than more likely.
That's 30% more percents.
Yeah, it's an upgrade in percentage, no doubt. The percent jump there is significant. I'd say that's about a 40% jump from 1 to 3.
Or is it a 300% jump since it was 10%? Now it's 40.
That's a great call. I don't know. I was told there'd be no math.
Yeah,
but 40%. Yeah, that's where I'm at mentally.
I'm going to go 50-50 because I thought there was, with the reports, maybe there was a 10% chance. And then when Oakland said they were going to go to Las Vegas, that bumped it up a little bit to me because thinking that Oakland needs Marshawn now. I think to get their fans on board for this next season, they're not real excited about their team moving. In fact, they're not going to move for 2 or 3 more years. So I think to keep the fans kind of intrigued, well, as if going to having a real opportunity to go to the playoffs and win a division shouldn't be enough for local fans. But we saw with way back when the Houston Oilers moved away from Houston, fan attendance dropped a ton there finally after they made the announcement that they were going to move to Tennessee, and they ended up moving to Tennessee sooner than they expected based off attendance. So I think once you've told fans that you're not going to be there, they're looking to tune out. But with Marshawn coming onto the team, that would, I think, get local fans really interested.
Okay, so that increases attendance by what? Maybe 1,500 people a game?
But it increases the intrigue, I think. Can Marshawn win a Super Bowl for his hometown before they have to move out of the state? That's
the bigger thing. If they're winning, they're going to get a lot more attendance. That's the number one thing that you gotta take into account. And the other thing is you don't know what Marshawn Lynch you're getting at this point. A year out of the game, 2 years older, and I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. He could come out and throw up a 1,500-yard season. He could also come out and be a shell of himself. I really have no clue what to expect if he came back to play. I really don't.
And that could be what's really hanging this up, because maybe the Raiders want to incentivize a contract deal. Maybe Marshawn wants, because he's supposed to make $9 million from the Seahawks, and he could have a number in his mind and say, "Hey, I'm not coming back if I don't get that." I could see. If they were to give him like at least $6 million guaranteed, I think Marshawn Lynch will be coming back to play. Less than that, I think the chances are a lot less likely.
Well, so what are the Raiders willing to give us?
Well, see, that's the other thing is they have to trade for his rights, or Marshawn would have to force the Seahawks to release. But based on what I heard from,
how would he do that?
He would say, "I'm unretired. I'm going to come play for the Seahawks."
Cool.
And the Seahawks would have to pay him $9 million.
Sure.
Cap space could be tight.
Right. But you could figure that out. You could restructure a couple dudes and there's no possible way you couldn't figure that out.
And you'll just have a backfield with Thomas Rawls, Eddie Lacy, and Marshawn Lynch.
Yeah. Yeah. And I probably wouldn't hang my head about that.
That's a solid backfield, by the way.
Well, 2 out of 3 of them are darn good.
Well, you just said one was questionable.
Well, he was good when he played.
Yeah. Do you think this is about Marshawn Lynch coming back to really solidify his Hall of Fame numbers?
No, I don't think that's in his mind.
No,
I don't think. No, I don't think that's what his motivation is. I think he just likes to play, and the idea that he could play at home. And you know what I mean? Like he could just still be in Oakland and play football. Like okay, and they were pretty good, and Derek Carr's a real deal. Why not? There's no reason for you to just to not play hardball about it. If they really want Marshawn Lynch, then okay. And it's not like we didn't treat Marshawn well either. Like he got a lot of money he didn't have to pay back. So if you want to be kind of a jerk about it and demand a higher trade value for the rights to him, and the Raiders decide that that's too rich for their blood, they don't want to pay it, and you don't want to come off of it, well, sorry, Beast, I guess you're sitting for another year. It's show business. It's not show friends.
Well, it's interesting you bring that up because apparently John Schneider and Reggie McKenzie are friends. They work together in Green Bay. And the fact that, Marshawn, if he were to really want to come back, I think that would play into this. I wouldn't expect anything higher. Maybe, if you're going to go
like a fifth, maybe.
If you're going to go a fifth, it might be a conditional fifth. Otherwise, it might be a 6 or 7.
The condition is you give me your fifth and you can have Marshawn Lynch.
It could be conditional on the number of games that he plays in the coming season.
No, I'm not doing any of that conditional crap. You're going to give me something good or not. Yeah. Like that's that. Yeah.
Well, we could use a fifth. We don't have one.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
I'm glad we're sticking to the reports that actually make sense because the reports that were out that Marshawn Lynch and Richard Sherman, would be like a package deal to go to some team. So that Marshawn Lynch was interested in the Patriots, like all of a sudden. You heard all the reports that Marshawn Lynch is only coming back if he's going to play with Oakland, but all of a sudden, maybe it doesn't, he doesn't get the offer that he wants from Oakland. So there's all of a sudden this report that, he could play for the Patriots. Yeah. When they just signed another running back for like $3 million, they won't pay LeGarrette Blount more than the other guy they just signed. And they're not bringing in Marshawn Lynch.
Oh, sure. Marshawn Lynch could play for them. He could play for Manchester United next season too and play soccer. He could play. He could try out for the Olympics. He could do a lot of things. I could write a lot of stories about what Marshawn Lynch could do.
Well, he could get fined or disciplined by the league now for being involved in an arm wrestling competition in Las Vegas.
That's a bunch of garbage. Like, let him arm wrestle.
Let him arm wrestle. I agree. Him and all the other active players.
Look, man, if Roger Goodell can't get on board on this, then we need to get a copy of Over the Top sent to Roger Goodell's office so he can understand the magic of competitive arm wrestling.
I think any of us who have seen Over the Top understand the magic of competitive arm wrestling.
That's what I'm saying. We need he needs to get off his high horse on this one.
One thing that I like to think about when I watch Over the Top, and maybe this occurs to you too, but when I watch that movie, I wonder to myself, can Sylvester Stallone play offensive line for the Seattle Seahawks?
I hadn't. No, because I don't know. I don't think that he had any experience playing ever.
That doesn't matter.
No, we usually have like somewhere in their life.
Okay,
they've tried it. Yeah.
No,
if you're gonna make it varied on the joke, stick to the parameters, Brandon.
I thought that was the best part about that joke. It was outside the parameters.
I don't think you could. Here's the problem with Sly Stallone's character from Over the Top playing offensive line. If he were to turn his helmet backwards to get the power, because that was the thing, right? Like when it was time to go over the top, he turned his hat backwards.
You can't turn your helmet backwards.
You can't. No, that would make it a lot harder. So no, I don't think he's a legitimate O-line prospect.
All right, well, let's close out the first half of the show with the media's continued effort to manufacture drama around Richard Sherman. But before we go there, let's go to SeahawkersPodcast.com/auction and check out Pristine Auction, Pristine, and see what they have to offer for Seahawks. If you go to SeahawkersPodcast.com/auction, it'll just take you to right where all the Seahawks gear is on Pristine Auction.
Good job by you.
I set it up that way just to make it easier for people.
I like it because there's cool stuff on there, man.
There is.
I see it in our email every now and then. Like you're picking up a prize here and a prize there for people and like all that. So,
well, I discovered the magic of Pristine Auctions 1-day auctions. You have to go every day to know when they're going to run these 1-day auctions.
Sure.
And I went last week and I'm looking at it right now. There's 6 hours left to go. And on some of these, there's a Steve Largent signed Seahawks logo football with Hall of Fame 95 for Steve Largent. Right now, the bidding's at $15.76.
How much?
$15.76.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure it was 15 and not 50. Like that's dirt cheap.
1.5, yeah. No, this stuff's affordable. Kurt Warner signed Seahawks jersey, $12.60 right now.
Seriously?
Yeah.
All right, Brandon. Feel free to buy whatever it is that you want. That's a cool site, man. They got a lot of cool stuff. Apparently, Steve Largent's just sitting around signing jerseys.
Steve Largent, Warren Moon, Kurt Warner now. I like that they have a lot of Kurt Warner stuff showing up on here lately.
Yeah, I'd be down for a Warren Moon thing.
Yes. The thing that I want, I'm going to get it eventually.
Tell me what you want, what you really, really want.
I'll tell you what I want, what I really, really want.
You want
to? I want a Warren Moon full-sized helmet.
Is it silver?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Silver with the old logo.
I want that real bad.
I do too. So go to SeahawkersPodcast.com/auction. Be sure and go there every day to see when they have these daily auctions because, and they all end around, let's see, what would it be? 6.5 hours from now. It'd be about 8 o'clock Pacific time. So just perfect to check right after dinner and you can see what's closing that day.
Well, I'll tell you what, Brandon, you know what will become real cheap on Pristine Auction here shortly is all Richard Sherman gear when he's no longer a Seattle Seahawk any longer, any day now. He's going to be on all the teams. In fact, I mean, the odds are according to Vegas, like for him playing on the Seahawks, it was like the 8th most likely outcome.
It was 8-1 odds that he would be on the Seattle Seahawks. So if you put down $10, you would win 80 if he, really? Day one is starting for the Seahawks.
Can I still get them odds?
I don't know. I don't know how it works. It sounded to me like the site was kind of shady, and so I don't know if I'd put it out there.
Okay. All right. Because I'd throw $100 on that. I do that in an instant.
Yeah. Well, because then you're going to be, $800 richer.
I know.
At the start of the season.
I like free money. It's really nice. It's really nice.
I know.
Holy smokes. I can't even, I don't even know where to begin with the headlines that have come out since the last show, Brandon.
I've decided that based on all the articles that I've read since the last show, that he's either going to be traded before the draft, traded during the draft, traded after the draft, or traded during or following the 2017 season, or he'll play out his contract and sign with a different team or re-sign with the Seahawks.
Or John Schneider finds a way to create a wormhole and go back in time and trade him before this year. Or that's just it. I mean, good Lord, man. How much more speculation of when Richard Sherman is going to get traded? Well, newsflash, people, he ain't getting traded. That, I said, the Marshawn Lynch thing was like a 40% in my head kind of thing. This is like 3.2%.
What was it? 5 shows back? We talked a little bit about how the media can produce a spot to really go after a player. But I think now we've seen just in the past couple of weeks that how the media can continue to somehow create this story that there's like a growing rift between Sherman and the team, or that somehow the Seahawks are not only shopping him, but as the days go on, their willingness to unload him for less and less. He's on his way out. It's just a matter of who's finally going to make an offer that the Seahawks are willing to accept at the right time.
Right. That's a sense you get reading the headlines, correct?
Oh yeah.
Unbelievable. Well, I've got a report, Brandon. I got something to report today.
Oh, this is verified based on facts.
Oh, it's verified as much as any of these other reports are, because that's what you can do now.
Well,
you can just
count me as clicking right now.
Yeah. So you can just this is sourced out and as well thought out as any of these others. But this is my official report / theory on what actually happened here, because I think what the media has done is they've taken small granules of truth and turned it into what we're seeing. This is what I think happened. I think at some point during this offseason, because we all know that Pete Carroll spoke to Richard Sherman right after the season with their exit interviews and everything, and they kind of ironed out some of the stuff, right?
Sure.
From Sherman's behavior. And, they had every intention of talking to Richard at some point during the season too, and kind of being like, no, really, you're going to have to do a little better at some of this stuff. We can't have you popping off like this. So I think at some point here during this offseason, that conversation went down, whether that was Schneider or Carroll or a position coach or something like that. And I think Sherman took offense to it, was like, oh yeah, you don't like my annex and everything? Why don't you just trade me then? Out of the heat of the moment, you just kind of says something. And then Adam Schefter gets wind of it and something like that and writes a headline. Oh, this was all by Sherman's request. And so the Seahawks were like, all right, we'll oblige you, just to put the fear of God in him. And so they're like, yeah, we're going to go out there and we're going to shop you. And so then John Schneider gets on the radio and says, oh yeah, everything you're hearing, that's real. That's real. And I think right after it came out of Richard's mouth, he went, no. I don't want to leave my dudes. I love Cam. I love Earl. I can't imagine playing somewhere else. I was just kind of hearing them all. I don't think, and they're like, no, we're it's real. It's real. We're going to take offers, Richard. Just to teach him a lesson, and it just to put him in his place a little bit, just to scare him a little bit, to understand that, all right, yeah, you feeling high on the horse? You bet. Sure, we'll trade you. And so. But then the hilarious thing about all of this to me is, at the end of the day, whether you hear Pete Carroll talk about it, John Schneider talk about it, or Richard Sherman talk about it, all this is real, rah, all this stuff, and then they all finish it the same way. I don't really see it happening, though.
Yeah.
That's what every one of them says.
I think
at the end of it.
It's interesting to me, though, that you're trying to rationalize it in a way that all these stories can somehow have some grain of fact to it.
Right. There's some validity somewhere in there, I don't know. Just one random fact that probably that they got correct, but then ran with in a weird way.
And that's part of the problem I have with John Schneider coming on 710 ESPN, right? Promoting his fundraiser and talking about how this is all the talk is real. Because when you say all the talk is real, then that opens the door for some people to throw out some pretty crazy ideas. you referenced the Adam Schefter report about this being Sherman's idea, but Adam Schefter didn't say this until here in the last week or so.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're Adam Schefter, man, you know how the news works. If it's been your understanding all along, I mean, all along since when? Because Schneider's quote was that that something came out after the pre-combine meetings. So you're telling me that Schefter heard about this way back before the combine, and he's been sitting on this until now. And now he says, it's Sherman's idea. Oh, yeah, I knew all along it was Sherman's idea.
Well, yeah, duh.
Yeah, because it totally makes sense for a guy who's in the news to just sit on news.
That's how Adam Schefter made his career, was sitting on all his good scoops.
Right.
For a long period
exactly.
of time.
I'm over trying to rationalize all of the reports out there is essentially what I'm saying. And I think that there's a consistent message that you're hearing. And one, yes, that Sherman is most likely going to come back. I think if a deal were to happen, or I think a deal would have happened already based on everything that we've heard.
Right.
You know, if he threw it out there as, you know, whether it was to New England, which I guess kind of makes sense because, you know, they brought in the free agent, Gilmore.
I guess. And somehow they have decided that they are not going to pay Malcolm Butler or something, which I don't quite understand, but all right.
Yeah, my favorite's the Patriots should trade Malcolm Butler to the Seahawks, which I'm not a big fan of that.
No, and all the no's and more no's. No.
Yeah.
No.
Look, Malcolm Butler made a great play, but we don't need him as a Seahawk.
No, I do not need to see his name on the roster week in, week out to remind me of that. No.
One of the things that I found kind of interesting, though, is listening to Richard's brother Branton. This is something that, and this was an NFL.com report. This is something that's going to play positive on both ends, on the organization that's trying to regain its power and on Richard. So kind of speaks to that idea that, you know, the Seahawks are trying to assert some semblance of, you know, to show that they have the control over where he goes.
Right.
And Branton goes on to say they're making it seem like they don't need him. This is the same player that everyone doubted and denied, saying he's too tall, too slow. His hips aren't good enough. 5th rounder. This is a new chip that Richard is going to use. He's going to be like, you think you could trade me? I'm going to show you guys that you won't even talk about trading me. This is a new obstacle mentally. So him essentially suggesting that this is kind of being manufactured for Sherman to put kind of a chip on his shoulder.
Sure. So it could be a head game. We've probably already taken too much time trying to deconstruct this already.
Well, the point is, though, that the Seahawks, they are willing to talk about it and keep it going in the media. They haven't been real interested in shutting down the talk in the media.
So that's got to tell you that it's in their interest somehow for this to continue going on.
Right.
Because they're not going to do that if it doesn't benefit them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, let's get into the back half of the show. We got a couple new members of the flock. We got some emails. We got some reviews. And, of course, do better and better at life. The Seahawkers annual banquet coming up on May 20th on Saturday, 4 to 9 p.m. If you're a member of the Seahawkers, and if you're not a member, you can go to Seahawkers.org, join a chapter, and also get your tickets there. $40 to go, $41 if you pay via the website. And check that out. Seahawkers annual banquet, May 20th.
Very cool, man.
All right, let's get into some new members of the flock because we got 2 new members and we got a raise.
Ooh,
from another one of our members of the flock. You can go to getintheflock.com. These people did. Welcome to the flock to Brant Olson, who is in for a sticker in the bonus shows. And also welcome to the flock to RJ Pewterbaugh.
Solid, man.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, guys. On our quest to get to the 300 patrons that we're hoping to here by the start of the season. That feels like a quest. I like the word quest when because it's epic. We got to get there,
epic
man.
Quest. We're at 167 right now, and so that gives us a little bit of ground to cover, and in the coming months. But I think we can do it. And we got a raise, as I mentioned, from Jason in Bozeman at Desert Fox 321 on Twitter, and Jason says sent along a note, said, "Hey, Brandon and Adam, been a loyal listener for 2 years now. Been meaning to write you guys for at least that long, but I'm easily distracted."
Understood.
Yeah. Just wanted to thank you guys for giving me a great Seahawks podcast to latch onto when I switched from being a guy sort of aware of the Seahawks to memorizing each member of the Seahawks roster. My best memories in those early days include listening to the NFC Championship podcast probably about 10 times, even if I could never listen to the Super Bowl recap podcast, and listening to you guys banter about Canadian football team names after a long day of summer work. I remember that show. Remember when we talked about the Ottawa Red Blacks? And
yes, I do.
And
I
the
do
Hamilton
remember.
Tiger Cats.
Right.
The Tiger Cats still make me wonder why we aren't the Seahawks Birds.
Yeah. No, you got to double animal your name up.
Jason goes on, "I've listened to every one of the Seahawkers and all 32 podcasts since then and enjoyed every minute of it. As a side note, I had another good idea for eventually settling the Eddie Lacy debate, if Adam is up for it. He could take a look at the free agency signings and choose who he would rather have instead of Lacy with that money. Then at the end of the year, see if that person did or people did better than on their teams than Lacy did here. It'd be subjective, but at least Adam would be able to prove if he's a better general manager than John Schneider."
I like it.
He goes on to say, "Go Bobcats."
Yeah, I think he knows how I feel about that.
And he points out that the Bobcats did, in fact, win the last meeting between the two teams. So
let's not talk about it. I'm just going to talk loud and over you about that so we don't have to hear about it.
He said, "Yeah, I've increased my monthly contribution in accordance with my college budget. So hopefully you guys can use that to keep up the good work."
Awesome. Thank you a lot, Jason. Appreciate it a ton. I kind of like his idea of the Eddie Lacy thing. So basically what I'm going to need to do then is I'm going to have to wait until post training camp, preseason, when a lot of these older veteran offensive linemen sign, and to see if anybody signs in that Eddie Lacy range as far as money goes. Mm-hmm. Then I can make a determination of which guy that I would choose.
Going to be hard comparing offensive line to running back, though.
No, it's not so much that. It's just, did they have a solid year for their position or not a solid year?
Sure. Okay. Yeah. No, you could go by end of year Pro Football Focus grade or something.
Perfect. Yeah. Something along those lines.
Yeah.
I don't think that's part of the official bet, but it.
No, but this is just to measure yourself as a general manager.
Well, I know how good I am at this.
You don't need some other measure. You can just talk about how good you would be.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I understand.
That's why the phone's ringing off the hook for me to be a GM.
It's true. I hear there's some openings.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into some reviews. Let's start off with, we got 4 reviews because as we've talked about a quest, we're on the quest to 230 reviews so we can take down, I think it was the Ringer NFL podcast.
Yeah, they deserve it too.
Yeah. So here's the first review from Nate the Aussie. Says, "Best Seahawks podcast. Are you a Seahawks fan? If you answered no, you should be. If you answered yes, this is the podcast for you. 2 great hosts, tidy format, awesome production, and most of all, terrific info about the best team in the NFL, the Seattle Seahawks."
Awesome. Go Hawks, man. I appreciate that. Those down under folks, they know how to do it up.
Here's one from Mary. I'm going to take a shot at this username.
Ooh, okay. I like this. I like this game. All right.
Marry me, Dan, damn it.
I think that's a pretty solid guess. I got it.
I'm trying to find. It's like a little word puzzle where it's all one word,
right?
But apparently,
whoever this is, they just want somebody to put a ring on it.
Dan. They want Dan to put a ring on it.
Oh, Dan. Oh, okay.
Marry me, right. Dan. Damn it.
Oh, okay. Get it done, Dan. They'll sell you a ring on credit. Go after it, buddy.
The headline is, "I'm joining the flock as soon as I can." Says, "I love this podcast. I can catch up on fun moments from the past. I can stay up to date on the off season, and I can pass the time on runs. You both rock. Expect a new member of the flock out of me very soon."
Awesome. Thank you very much. That's a double quest review right there, because they're going to get in the flock on that quest, and then they're helping us with our Ringer quest.
Exactly.
So all the quests. That's a solid review.
I like it.
How many stars was that review?
I want to say 5, but I don't know for sure.
How do you not know?
It doesn't. The stars don't come up in my when it comes in.
Well, then wherever it comes in from needs to do better.
I read them regardless of stars, so I go off the feeling. If that one feels like a 5-star,
that feels like 5 stars. Okay, that feels like 5 stars.
Here's one from Jason B. Says Hawks fan in Ninerland. Hi guys, love the pod. I'm a Seattle native that lives in Sacramento now, and I'm surrounded by Niner fans.
No!
I know. It's great to be able to hear some great Hawk talk from you guys. Keep up the good work. Go Hawks.
Go Hawks, man, and good luck, dude. I'm thinking of you. I'm thinking on you, man. Oh, that's tough. What's the phrase I'm looking for there? It's neither of those. It's neither of those two. You're in my thoughts.
Thoughts and prayers.
Well, I don't really pray.
Love and light.
Yeah, I don't know. I gotta work on my.
May the force be with you.
There we go. That sounds good.
Here's one from Me Self Star 0892, Top Seahawks Podcast. These guys are passionate, informative, and funny. They are on top of all the latest info surrounding the team. And even though Adam gets a bit fired up at times, you know it's just because he cares about the Seahawks. I have a 50-mile commute to and from work each day and listen to all the Seahawks podcasts. And this is the one that I look forward to the most. Keep up the good work, guys.
Oh, well, thank you. That was a very flattering review.
That's nice. I like hearing that.
The idea that they listen to all of them and they're like, no, this is the cream of the crop.
I like it.
Yeah, me too. Aw.
Let's get into some email, Adam.
Oh, okay. We got more. All right, perfect.
Well, those were just the reviews.
Holy smokes, man.
We got all kinds of listener feedback this week.
Fantastic.
It's good. First one from Axel Klein. Says, Brandon, enjoyed meeting you and your podcast is awesome. Good luck with your truck. Go Hawks. And I will decrypt this for you. I was
thank you.
I went to Dave Smith, the car place in Kellogg, Idaho this last week.
Yes, I meant to ask you about this.
Yeah, the end of my lease was up on my old Honda CRV. Mm-hmm. And I went to davesmith.com and was, shopping different offers. They had a Ram truck. And I ended up paying less for my lease payment, getting a huge Ram truck with a 5.7 liter Hemi engine, V8 over my, little 4-cylinder Honda CRV.
Sure.
And it saved me like $10 on my car payment every month.
Oh, sweet. Well, that's all right. I mean, because you'll burn through that extra $10 a month in about 32 seconds when you drive it.
Well, it's not quite that bad.
Isn't it? 5.7 liter V8. So basically, I need to get a more fuel efficient ride for Seattle trips now.
Oh, we can take I have my little minivan.
Yeah, we don't ride in minivans, Brandon.
No.
When it's two dudes on a trip, you can't roll in a minivan.
Yeah, I suppose.
But on the flip side, Brandon, and for the positive, there is something women like about a pickup van.
I think so. I know my wife is totally into it.
Yeah. Well, there's a whole song about it.
Is there?
You've never heard that song?
Are you going to sing it?
You want me to?
I don't. I'll let you know.
Okay. We'll see if this stays in. Yeah, the chorus goes up as something a little like this. There's just something women like about a pickup man. Like that's the tagline.
Yeah, I've never heard that before. Is that in a commercial or is it just a song?
No, it's a 90s country song.
Oh.
You can light the truck on fire and roll it down a hill, and I still wouldn't trade it for a Coupe de Ville. Got an 8-foot bed that doesn't have to be made. If it wasn't for trucks, it wouldn't have tailgates. I met all my wives in traffic jams. There's just something women like about a pickup man.
That's exactly why I got this truck. I know. Subconsciously, I think that song was in my head.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, if you want to get a truck, you should go talk to Axel at Dave Smith. That's all I'm saying.
They sell a lot of other cars.
They do sell other cars, and it's a pretty sweet place. Like okay.
If Axel is listening, if he can find a Jeep Liberty that had the little 4-cylinder diesel and a manual, if he can find that for me, that'd be really cool.
Oh, okay. I bet he can.
I don't know if he can.
No? Okay.
I think it has the same rarity as like a unicorn. because they only put him in there for like 2 years, the diesel, and then they for some inexplicable reason they don't hardly make stick shifts anymore in any of the newer cars.
Okay, I'm going to put that out to Axel. If you're listening, that's what Adam's looking for.
Yes,
a unicorn.
Yes, a diesel Jeep Liberty with a stick. That's how the show goes off the rails.
That's okay. It's the off season. One from Aaron in Brandon, Manitoba says, "Hi guys, just listened to your latest podcast and I wanted to comment on the spocking of Canadian $5 bills."
Yes.
Yes, this is an expert from Manitoba. So,
yeah.
Unfortunately, Canada saw fit to update their currency a few years ago, and they changed both the profile of Sir Wilfrid Laurier and the texture of the currency. Now it's more plastic-like. I'd like to imagine that the spocking was the main reason for overhauling the currency. Do you want to comment on the spocking? Because I also heard on Twitter that Floctimus Prime was calling you out on this being like a 2-year-old thing.
Right. And my question is, how did he not bring that to our attention?
Right.
He seemed to know about it, and he didn't bring it up to us. He knows that that's something that we love. That's on Keith.
I know.
That's on Keith. So for him to call me out, how dare you? Because you didn't bring this up to us. And you knew about this and held it. You withheld it? Terrible.
Very disappointed in you, Keith. We're not mad. We're disappointed.
Yeah, exactly. Now go to your room.
Aaron goes on to say, "I've got an idea for an off-season podcast. Could you guys go through some of the top players on our team and discuss the likelihood of their Hall of Fame induction? Maybe for the guys who are right on the fence, you can talk about what they'd have to do to get there. By the way, Adam, as a music teacher, that singing that you just did was terrible."
Understood.
Secondly, I put that in there. Adam, as a music
was that
teacher,
some creative license on your part right there?
He actually didn't just hear you singing. This email was written days ago.
Really? So you just thought since he was from Brandon, Manitoba, like you could take it over with your Brandon thoughts. Okay.
Exactly. As a music teacher, I want to thank you for taking your daughter to bassoon lessons.
Oh.
I know it's probably a pain in the butt to drive her to and from the location and wait around while she's in her lesson, but it's really commendable that you make the effort. Love the show. I look forward to it every week. Go Hawks. And he says, "P.S. I received the Kristen Michael rookie card a little while back. I'm planning to give it to my wife for her birthday in late June. A little present from the Seahawkers podcast." I
can't wait to hear about that. And thank you on the bassoon. Honestly, taking her to bassoon lessons is easy for me because I was a band nerd. Like, if it hadn't have been photography, I'd have gone into music. And I'll still remember the day that she, called me up at a barbecue in the summer and said, "I want to play the bassoon starting next year," because it was our first year. And I've always liked the bassoon. I've always thought it's a beautiful instrument. And when we went and picked it up from the school rental this last summer, the guy was standing there and he goes, "So, what are you guys here for?" And we're like, "We're here for her bassoon." And he goes, "Oh, the scholarship instrument."
Ooh.
And yes. So I'm a big fan of this right now. I'm really hoping that it's going to come through, and there's going to be many free semesters of college coming up as a result of all this. So
I like
it's better for me in the long run.
I like how there's some incentive for you in there. That's good.
It's about how it affects me. Let's not forget. Yeah.
Here's one. David in Flemington, New Jersey. He's setting you up right here. With the 106th pick in the 2017 NFL Draft, the Seattle Seahawks select Mo Ali Cox, a 6'6", 260-pound basketball player who's working out as a tight end near Richmond, Virginia.
Really? How's his hip bend? Because if it's good enough, he could probably play guard.
I think it's knee bend, isn't it?
It's hip flexion as well.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know if they're sticky hips, but solid name. A solid name. I did see that headline that, they were looking at basketball players as tight ends. So cool. But I just wonder if he can play tackle.
Exactly. That's why David Flemington is even putting it up on the tee for you on the show.
I know. I said that one with less enthusiasm. Because,
I was a little bit disappointed.
Well, it can't be just continuing progression of awesomeness, Brandon.
Okay.
Like there's got to be some ebbs and flows,
some peaks and valleys.
Yeah,
that was one of the
so
valleys.
You appreciate the good ones.
The next one's going to be funnier.
Maybe.
Final email here from Michael West, calling out from the George H.W. Bush.
Yes. What's going on with the Herbert Walker? What's going on?
He's in port. He says, I've been deployed for about 2.5 months now and have since completed all the past podcasts. One of the first things that I'm sure to accomplish as I hit any of my ports, which at this point has been Isle of Crete, Greece twice, is to download any of the podcasts I've missed while out to sea. I try to stay abreast of the Seahawks news while I'm out here, and it's been a while since my last port, but I've seen that we've been working the O-line, picked up Lacey, and there is crazy talk about Sherm trades. I hope it all works out in the end for us. I think
he's got it nailed. Yeah,
exactly. That's the offseason summarized.
Even if you're out lost at sea, like you can still, you didn't miss much.
I hope it all works out in the end for us. Another championship in the works. I watched the Zags lose yesterday, which was unfortunate, but not nearly so as watching the Hawks lose any game throughout the season. Sorry to any diehard Gonzaga fans out there, but my Seahawk fandom runs deep. While I was away, my wife wrote a letter to the Hawks organization asking about any types of goodie bags for me, unbeknownst to me, and I believe they forwarded her request to the Military Seahawkers, to which I am a proud member, and they ended up sending her a swag bag with a bunch of Seahawks gear. But the prize, in my eyes, is the Seahawks military coin, a beauty. I show it off at every opportunity just to let everyone know that the Seahawks are better than everyone else's team. Well, gentlemen, sorry for the ramble. I appreciate the time you put into the program, and I look forward to your take on the recent developments as well as the upcoming draft. I look forward to the next port when I can download all the missed episodes and get reacquainted with my Hawks from a true fan's objective perspective. Thanks for your time, and of course, my customary shout out to the 12th Man of Virginia Facebook page. And on behalf of the displaced Seahawks fans aboard CVN 77 and around the world, thank you for all that you do. Go Hawks.
Go Hawks. Yeah, well, hopefully when you come back to port the next time that the shows will be more entertaining than this one.
That's the bonus about getting all your shows at once, like Michael's doing. He can, you can
cruise through the
peaks and valleys.
Less event. Yeah, peaks and valleys.
Just like your jokes.
It's not a steady continuation of awesomeness. You're right. Now, my question always on that coin, though, Brandon, was what's the face value of the Seahawkers coin, military coin?
Well, now for military members.
Can you Spock it? That's the next question.
No, you never Spock a Seahawks coin.
Okay, I was just curious.
Now, could you Wilson it? That's another question.
Ooh. Doesn't have quite the same ring. Can you Russ it?
Russ it.
Yeah, like
Danger
a potato.
Russ it.
Yeah.
But the thing with coins is not the value, the monetary value of the coin, but like how does it rank against military? Because the thing with military coins is supposed to be if you show off that you have a military coin and somebody else has a coin, the person whose coin is from a person who ranks higher in the military. Mm-hmm. If their coin ranks higher, then you have to be the one to buy the beer.
That's a thing?
That's a thing.
Wow. There's a lot of stuff that there's a lot of rules in that.
In the military, you have to determine who buys the beer. So this is a good way to do it.
That's true. I vote for Uncle Sam to buy the beer.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
I think the Seahawks coin, though, should outrank any general in the military.
Oh, clearly.
Or admiral.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe even if you were to get a presidential coin.
How many military coins are there?
Oh, well, every person, any high-ranking person in the military seems to have a coin because they give it out as a
coin that they give out
as an award type thing, and people collect them.
Because there's not enough awards, medals, ribbons, and things in the military already. You got to have coins too.
Yes, to figure out who buys the beer, Adam.
That can't be figured out by whose wallet's the fattest, or who's too drunk enough to know the difference.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of other ways to figure out. See, like between my friends, like we don't need coins to decide who buys the beer. It always works itself out. But it's a fun game. I get it. That's cool. Whatever blows your hair back.
Yeah, you definitely. Maybe you need to experience this to actually understand.
Yeah, I think that might be the problem. Yeah.
When we're around our fellow military Seahawkers, or my fellow military Seahawkers next time, I will demonstrate how this works to you.
All right, I want to see a coin throwdown.
we will have a coin throwdown.
All right. Awesome.
I bet I can beat just about anybody out there. Just about.
Really? We'll whip it out.
I will.
Great.
All right. On to do better and better at life.
Wonderful. Okay. My do better this week, Brandon, because really a show can't go by without one of us yelling at a Bleacher Report writer. I think that somehow we don't do the world justice when we do that. And so this week, my do better is for Bleacher Report writer Brad Gagnon or Gagnon or
Gangnam style.
Yeah, I don't know. But he's the NFL national columnist. And he just came out with an article today. And the title of it is Most Overrated NFL Teams After Peak Free Agency. That is the title of the argument. And if you scroll down or of the article, and if you scroll down all the way to number 1, you come across none other than the Seattle Seahawks. The most overrated team in the NFL after free agency is the Seattle Seahawks. Really? I find that to be extremely interesting. So you mean the team that has won a playoff game every year since Russell Wilson has been the quarterback is overrated? The one with a Super Bowl title and another Super Bowl appearance that still has the core members of that team, a member of that team. They're the ones that are the most overrated. Man, and again, he comes at this from, the same view that all the national narrative goes to, that, basically the offensive line was terrible. They didn't do anything. And so they're going to be terrible again. Oh, and the defense isn't good anymore. So they're overrated. So to Brad, maybe do some research and understand that this team, well, first off, he says that, they're still going to win the NFC West, but basically if he teamed up with his best buddy, he could still win the NFC West just by doing that.
Oh yeah, of course. Cause right. Aaron Donald doesn't help the Rams defense at all, win 7 games.
Right, exactly. So basically, and then he ends the article with basically with a little rant about the offensive line, and then the last sentence is, and don't even get me started on a potential Richard Sherman trade.
Don't get him started.
Brad, do better.
I'm still trying to understand the factors that go into this, because if it's based off of off-season moves and the free agency so far, are they saying that
just at this point in the year, the Seahawks are
the most overrated? Right.
Like, yeah, because within the article too, he's like, I just can't see how this team goes to a Super Bowl.
Okay.
Like, it's totally beyond him. Like there's zero chance in Brad's little pea brain.
Wow. Even though he has us penciled in to win the division already.
Well, yeah, but his mom could win that, remember? Well, so, yeah. Right.
So we stink so bad, but yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. Brad sucks.
I'm still going to put this on Bleacher Report's editors a little bit, because, for Brad to have enough knowledge for all 32 NFL teams and how well they're rated or overrated, it's pretty much an impossible task for a reporter who doesn't make any money.
Do not come to his defense. Do not come to his defense.
Brad's not making any money off these articles.
You need to rub Brad's nose in this, much like you do a dog who's had an accident on the carpet.
Stop it, Brad.
Bad Brad.
Well, my do better this week is for Jim Weber of Awful Announcing, and this is, I think, the first time that I've had awful announcing in my do better.
Yeah,
because usually Awful Announcing does exactly what we do and points out the bad things that other reporters are doing.
Right.
And by doing this to me, this article I saw, it's handicapping the candidates to replace Sam Ponder on ESPN's College Game Day.
Okay.
This article does not have anything to do with analyzing how well these candidates actually are at providing analysis skills.
I see.
As I go down this list, 5, it has Molly McGrath down as 8-1 because she's young, used to a crazy travel schedule, has lived and breathed college football, and is a beautiful blonde like her predecessors.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That checks a lot of boxes.
Wow. Nailed it.
So there you go. Analysis on how pretty.
That's basically her Spark score, right? For sideline reporting.
Yeah. Sideline Spark scores.
Yeah, she really crushes the beautiful blonde drill.
Yeah. Well, Laura Rutledge at 10-1 fits into that category as well. The 28-year-old is a former beauty pageant queen who was named Miss Florida 2012.
Well, okay. So in this dude's defense, those are her accomplishments, correct?
Right.
Yeah.
They're not her accomplishments as to what analysis she provides.
So it's kind of like if you were at a job interview and you're like, I won the chili cook-off and you're interviewing for an accounting job. Like, yes, you won a chili cook-off and that's an accomplishment, but it doesn't apply here.
Right.
Okay.
Well, other than, I mean, they like to put pretty people on TV. I'm not dismissing
I'm not
that.
opposed to that. Yeah.
I mean, that goes male or female. They like to put pretty people on TV.
Yeah, I know I should be a podcaster. I'm well aware of that. Like, I know where I rank in that. Like, I probably don't belong in.
My point on this, if you haven't figured it out already, going down the list, this for an awful announcing, a place that normally prides itself on pointing out the crappy jobs that other reporters are doing, to actually go down this list and rank people, the sideline reporters based off of their looks and not by their actual analysis. To me, that deserves awful announcing needs to do better.
Yeah, I think we've supposedly grown as a culture past this, right? Like,
you can talk about candidates that might be a logical replacement for a sideline reporting gig, but talk about them. How good are they at their job?
Ran the school newspaper for like 3 years and had a great
these are people all with experience. These are all people with experience actually doing the job. Are they good at it?
Wait, you want them to stick to facts, logic, and reason?
I just think it's better than pointing out that they have yellow hair. That to me is not a qualification for being a sideline reporter.
That's a good point. Yeah.
All right, on to Better at Life.
All right, my Better at Life this week, Brandon, is for John Daly, because I love me some John Daly. I've always loved John Daly. For those of you not familiar, he is the golfer who basically came from the South, kind of a, just every dude's kind of dude, hard drinker, been an alcoholic his whole life, just been off and on the booze, but always a fan favorite, and he could hit the ball a country mile. He played unorthodox. He played with his hair on fire. Just recently, at the age of 50, John Daly was at a fundraiser in Myrtle Beach, and he stepped up to the tee box barefooted, teed a ball up on the top of a Tolly beer can, and proceeded to crush the golf ball off the top of the beer, picked up the beer and chugged it on the tee box. I love it. That's everything. That if you were to try to sum up John Daly as a human being, that's maybe a little unfair, but if you were to sum up everything that you should know, like just about his public persona and who he is, that was it in a 30-second clip. It was worth watching. John Daly, better at life than Skip Bayless. You do you, John. You do you.
That's one thing I've enjoyed about John Daly and his post PGA career.
Professional career, yeah. He I watched a pretty good documentary regarding that, and he's pretty honest about like everything that he did and didn't do, and like how he got to where he was. Yeah, and I find him to be a very genuine guy.
Yeah, for sure. My Better at Life this week is for Seahawks cornerback DeAndre Elliott. And
did he chug a beer too?
He may have, but it wasn't part of this story.
Oh, okay.
This is about DeAndre Elliott fulfilling a promise that he made when he was 4 years old, Adam.
Wow. You're into childhood promises this week, man.
Hey, those are the articles that get to me, man. You should know this.
That's where it hits you, right in the feels.
Kelly Lyle from the Colorado wrote this story. And so the promise that he made when he was 4 years old, he told his mom, one, that he was going to play in the NFL, and two, buy her a house with the money he would earn as a professional football player. And the article says he even wrote it down in the form of an IOU and dropped it into a jar of loose change that his mother kept. No different than the ones he wrote when he borrowed a quarter or two to buy candy. And last weekend, DeAndre Elliott, he fulfilled his promise and he bought his mom a new house. She moves from a 1,600 square foot house on the south side of Dallas to a 4,300 square foot home 30 minutes away in Cedar Hill. 5 bedrooms, including one for DeAndre when he comes to visit.
Holy smokes. That's a large house, man.
I know. Well, the next paragraph says that buying in the house was, quote, a little out of reach financially, DeAndre said, given he'd only played 1 season in the NFL, earning the league's minimum salary of an undrafted free agent of $450,000. But following through on the promise was every bit as important to him as making an NFL roster. But DeAndre Elliott, for coming through on a 20-year-old promise, better at life than Skip Bayless.
It is a heartwarming story. I just hope that they can afford a housekeeper because that's a lot of house to keep clean.
That is a lot of house, but yeah, that's cool.
I had an 1,800 square foot house once. Did not use all of that space.
I was going to say, if she were living in a 1,600 square foot house before, I mean, you could, if your promise was just to buy her a house, I mean,
you couldn't find something like size that maybe a better neighborhood or like on the lake or something or. I don't know.
I mean, your promise wasn't to buy her like a mansion.
I don't quite get it. I've never understood that mentality. Like, I'll take way less house in more land every day of the week and twice on Sundays. There's your Seahawks podcast advice of the week, right there. Words to live by.
I like living in town, so that's my thing.
Ugh.
You know, you're close to everything.
Really?
You're close there. I can walk to quite a few stores from here.
Cool. But then you got to see everybody and you got to be around everybody and everybody's right next to you. Where are you going to park your truck?
In the driveway.
Like, there's no room for it. There's no room for it.
Yeah. Well, I can't go mud bogging on my property with the 4x4, but
there you go. See, this is what I'm saying. You needed the property to have the truck.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That would make sense.
Hey, I know who to call when I need to get pulled out now. Yeah. When I get, when I bury the Jeep.
Exactly. Yeah. You can call me now. I can do that now.
Right. Okay. This is again, we have to figure out how this affects me. And somehow this is
now
this
it's
is
okay
better.
For your deal. No,
Yeah.
now the other thing is when we take trips to Seattle,
right?
With the bench seats being as long as they are, we can each have a bench seat. Like you could be in the back, because it's a not a crew cab, but a quad cab.
Right.
But you could stretch out back there.
Sure. Now we can't cuddle though.
Oh, yeah. Well, we could go in the bed of the truck instead.
Well, I guess that's true.
And sleep out under the stars.
Now that you're a pickup man.
Apparently you don't like pickup man.
Well, I mean, I like pickup man. You just got to need a truck. Like, if you're going to buy a truck, you need a truck. Don't just buy a truck to have a truck. You're basically Brock Heward right now. Like, you've bought a truck and become a truck guy. And you're not. It's just not.
Would you call me some kind of truck poser?
Yeah. Yep.
No, I don't think I have enough bling on my truck to be a poser.
No, you don't have enough mud on your truck to not be a truck poser.
Okay.
See, that's where it gets in, or enough dents in the box from like all the tools and
catfish
that you're hauling around, and like a truck isn't meant to be pretty.
Yeah.
Truck isn't meant to be pretty.
Okay.
Yeah. And while we're at it, this is the last thing before we go. Okay. Because this is important.
Okay.
An SUV is not a truck.
Well, yeah.
I know, but a lot of people call SUVs a truck.
Oh.
If it does not have a tailgate and a bed, it is not a truck.
Well, yeah.
Just because it has 4-wheel drive does not make it a truck.
What is an El Camino then? It has a bed.
An El Camino is a bad decision. That's what an El Camino is.
I got you. Well, the cool thing about this, and I'm really looking forward to this, in the summertime, we can all throw our bikes in the back of the truck.
Yeah. Well, and you're outnumbered by those girls. So that makes sense. You're going to need more, bike hauling space than I would.
Right.
So I get that.
And I mean, why buy a bike rack?
Right. That's for losers.
Bike racks are for losers. Get a truck.
Yeah, what you need to do is trade in your economical CRV in for a large pickup.
Well, yeah.
So you can haul a bike twice a year.
I couldn't afford a bike rack for my CRV. I mean...
Right. The lease payment was $10 higher than your truck is now.
I know.
You can afford a bike rack.
All right. Well, that does it for this week's show. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/Seahawkers Podcast, on Twitter @SeahawkersPod. Go to Get in the Flock, getintheflock.com. I don't know. Anything else before we go?
No, I think with that,
There's only one thing left to say.
you're a poser.
Screw you.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.